I'm listening. I'm listening.
Too much fun.
This technology is. Bonjour, bonsoir tout le monde. Bienvenue sur notre segment de Kozelegal avec Maître Béatrice Cazot. Tico déjà branché, nous remercions. Nous demandons partager live là. Nous disons merci d'avoir que vous branchez avec nous. Nous disons comme ça que préparez questions parce que le sujet aujourd'hui c'est autism. Nous allons parler de autism. Nous allons parler de legal issues. Nous allons parler de qui ça autism est. Nous allons parler d'informations pour parents qui ont des moun qui autistic. So nous voulons que vous préparer questions sur vous gagner. Nous gagnons un invité spécial qui pourra parler avec nous, pour faire poser avec nous sur le sujet nous. Encore merci d'avoir branché avec nous. Non, moi c'est Maître Béatrice Cazot, notre cabinet Cazot & Associates. Nous dans la région Banclan, qui est dans 633 Northeast 167e Street, suite number 1025, nous dans North Miami Beach, Florida. Téléphone nous dans le cabinet Cazot & Associates, c'est 305 614 0702 305 614 0702. Et pour question, nous demandons pour écrire question ou in the comment section. Et puis, depuis que son question que nous capable répondre pour même répondre pour vous, make sure que vous avez un topic là sur le sujet que nous allons parler. Hein? Pas vrai? Pas poser une question de l'immigration, pas poser une question de l'autre dossier, parce que le dossier nous très spécifique aujourd'hui. C'est très important pour qu'il y ait une question sur le sujet que nous allons baser, nous allons faire causer aujourd'hui. So, nous voulons remercier M. Sandy Boisrond qui a accepté l'invitation pour venir passer sous Kozelegal pour venir faire petit causer avec nous après-midi. Sandy, c'est un avocat qui a pratiqué ici dans l'État Floride. Il fait un pile droit de probate, qui veut dire que préparer dossier nous, pas vrai? Nous toujours dit préparer dossier nous, préparer nous avant le voteur, pas vrai? Faire wills ou faire trust ou make sure que vous mettez papier en ordre, parce que nous tous gagnons pour mourir, nous tous gagnons pour aller, nous par contre qui le. Après, il y a toujours dit accident par un klaxon, ce qui veut dire que c'est qu'on va pour préparer, il faut faire préparation depuis Kounia. Et ça nous parle parler aujourd'hui, spécialement de Timoun, moun qui gagne Timoun, qui dépend de eux-mêmes, pour une raison ou une autre, pas vrai? So, faut make sure que papier ou en ordre, parce que ou pas jamais qu'on la vie. So, Maître Boisrond, introduit tête tout, et puis dis moun yo qui est souillé, qui sont faits, et puis pour nous commencer avec l'information.
Ok, merci un peu, Maître Béatrice. Bien content de capable de aujourd'hui avant. Moi, c'est un avocat dans Floride là. Je travaille avec un peu de famille qui vient de Simon, qui vient autisme. Et en même temps, il y a un neveu qui a 14 ans, qui vient autisme. Et aujourd'hui, je vais parler avec nous de tout ce qui passe dans la communauté autiste pour nous capables de bien un service nous besoin et en même temps pour nous joindre tout document que nous besoin pour préparer.
Merci, M. Boisrond. Et je dis que nous ne pas oublier pour nous dire que le mois d'avril, c'est mois Autism Acceptance Month, pas vrai?
Yes.
OK. So, qui peut dire que jeudi a li très approprié pour nous parler de autism. Et M. Sandy, pourquoi pas commencer avec qui ça en autisme nan vle di? Est-ce que vous avez une définition pour les mêmes légales pour autism?
So autism c'est une condition qui est reliée au developmental disability. So ça veut dire développement si moun la gen problème et ça veut dire yo besoin quelque aide avec certains bagages. Par exemple, si ti moun la pa ka parler, li capable besoin de thérapie. Si ti moun la gen quelques problèmes avec, par exemple, li pa ka kembe ou bien crayon, ou bien si ti moun la gen ti moun ki gen l'autre problème avec autisme la tout. So, autisme c'est une condition qui affecte qui jan ti moun la développer.
That's interesting to say. Parce que est-ce que il y a différents levels de autisme? Pas vrai? Parce que m'kontan de di si moun li high functioning, low functioning, it's in the long spectrum. Pas vrai?
Yeah.
Qui ça veut dire même exactement?
So, là, yo di ou gen un spectrum, ça veut dire gen ti moun ki gen différents problèmes. So, gen ti moun ki plus sévère, gen ti moun ki pa gen problème, gen ti moun ki pa parler, gen ti moun ki pa kon parler. So, yo gen un pile condition en bas autisme.
OK. All right. So, ou di kon sa ke ou ede famille youn et ou di kon sa ke ou genyen ou fait expérience là ou même personnellement parce que ou genyen on neveu ou pas vrai? Okay. All right. And how is he, by the way?
He's 14. He thinks he's a grown man. And he's doing what most 14-year-olds do, which is misbehaving and behaving at the same time.
Same time.
So, mem
work.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Any 14-year-old that you have, whatever they do is what he does, plus he has autism.
So you have your work cut out for you.
Okay.
So basically for the parents who are watching or listening, what are some of the services, right? Qui service que nous gagnons de yo qui available pour ti moun qui gen autism ou bien pour adulte, pas vrai? Qui gen autism.
So, gen pil organisasyon ki supporte ti moun yo ki gen autisme konya, parce que le remate developpe autisme la, c'est maybe 14 years ago, right? So, konya gen plus service. So,
Okay.
par exemple, Miami-Dade ou bien Broward, chaque kote gen service yo. So, ap chèche informasyon sou disability services.
Okay.
So, depuis ce côté où on va checker disability services, on va checker ça early intervention, early steps, et puis on va joindre toute qualité de service que vous avez dans côté où en même temps, sous dans Florida, vous avez UMCARD. Ça, c'est un programme que l'Université de Miami fait qui est connecté avec toute qualité de service qu'on a besoin et en même temps, il est capable de service, il est capable en même temps.
Okay, that's interesting. So, no matter where you live in the state of Florida, it applies to residents of the state of Florida?
So
anywhere?
You can get a lot of resources and information because sometimes right now, there's a lot of things online that you can get access to that before you didn't have access to. But the first thing that you need to do is look to your county, your city, and see what disability services they have. And that's going to make a difference in what kind of services are available to you.
Okay. And, while we're on the subject in terms of what the county, or the city may have, how about the schools? Do you think that the schools are equipped now to deal with students suffering, students with
every
autism?
School is different. You really have to do your research and figure out what your school has. My nephew goes to a school for just autism. It's a charter school. It's called South Florida Autism Charter School. Different counties may have a charter school or other school that is just for autism. But you just have to, every school, you have to do your research. Every school has like an autism cluster, or they have a group specifically for special needs, or sometimes they'll specifically break it down to autism only.
OK. So, l'on dit comme ça que autism et pour dire special need là, c'est deux bagages différents?
C'est même bagay là, parce que special needs, ça veut dire si on a besoin d'assistance. C'est ça, special needs là. Si on a besoin d'assistance, ou besoin de support, so ou bien ça y est les special needs programs, ou bien special needs services, cap by si on la aide, dépend de ça besoin.
OK. You bring something that's quite important parce que très souvent dans la communauté noire, parents yo, pas vrai, parfois yo peut demander pour service que yo besoin, pas vrai, surtout pour ti moun yo. Yo peut-être intimidé pour yo demander service dans l'école là. Ou est-ce que vous pensez que son bagay que parents a supposé plus active pour yo aider ti moun yo dans situation ça?
Yo pas doit faire contact avec l'école là, et puis en même temps, il y a une organisation qui a aidé, par exemple, Autism 509, ça c'est une organisation qui travaille dans la communauté haïtienne, et il y a l'autre organisation, ça dépend de tout le monde là, il est capable de besoin de service, capable d'aider avec l'école.
Okay, that's very interesting. Now let's talk about some of the legal issues or the legal aspect that parents need to consider. And I know that, this is your field or expertise, and these are things that you probably see on a daily basis. So tell us what it is that, you need parents to know.
So when your child is a minor, if they're under 18, they're under your care. But the moment that your child becomes 18, depuis où elle arrive l'âge 18 ans, ça veut dire la besoin plus aide, et puis a besoin chercher au guardianship. So that means the guardianship is something that's going to allow you as their parent to continue to help them. Because when they're under 18, you can do what you need to for them. But once they become an adult, even though they have autism or any special needs, they're still an adult under the law.
Oh, Sandy, you're going to have to say that in Creole. Pour haïtien yo s'attendait parce que ti moun nan ten doit gen 32 ans. Ou comprendre, yo pense que c'est ti moun, yo pense que yo capable faire n'importe bagay, aller à docteur, amande docteur, à qui ça capable passer avec petit moins. Understand? And they think that they can continue to play that role without probably having the proper, documentation in place. So, this a en créole pour ça bien comprendre so dit là.
Oui, so là, si mon arrive à l'âge 18 ans, gouvernement, ouais, c'est aussi mon, c'est au grand monde lié pour nous.
Adulte.
So, adulte lié. So, lui-même, a besoin de documents que ou même parents ou capable de documents ça pour servir comme aide pour eux ou bien pour faire des décisions pour eux. Mais depuis si mon arrive à l'âge 18 ans, c'est adulte lié.
Yep. La loi, devant la loi, que même si ti moun nan dépendant de ou même, mais devant la loi reconnaît ti moun ça comme yon adulte. So ça met on dit, c'est que ou a besoin dossier, ou a besoin de documents légal, pas vrai? Pour établir guardianship, pour ti moun ça, pour qu'à prendre décision pour lui-même. Parce que le côté emballage, moins de 18 ans, il était considéré timoun ou même comme parent, certaines décisions te gen doit prendre pour lui-même, sans qu'on pas besoin de permission. Kounya là, le moment que timoun sa gen 18 ans, la loi reconnaît comme un adulte. Et depuis que li c'est un adulte, ou pas qu'à juste prendre décision comme ça, I'm assuming that, so for the guardianship, do they need to go to court? Do they need to petition the court for a guardian to establish guardianship?
Yes, it depends on the type of guardianship that they will need, because it depends on your child's condition. If your child has autism and they can behave and function on their own at least a little bit, then they have something called guardian advocacy. If your child needs either a limited or full type of guardianship, it's the regular process.
Okay. So either or both will require a court order.
Right. The only difference is if your child is able to do some things for themselves, then they may not need an attorney because you're going to do guardian advocacy. So if they have autism or some certain special needs, they can do the paperwork for themselves and go to the court. If you need to do a guardianship, you will need to have a lawyer.
That's very interesting that you would say that. Now, I mean, that brought up a different question in my head, and now, I was thinking about it and then I forget. So what are some of the documentations?
Okay, so there are a number of things that you're going to need to do to get a guardianship. You're going to need to have your credit reports and your credit scores. You're going to need to have a criminal background check. You will need to do an application, and then you'll also have to have a lawyer prepare all of the paperwork that goes to the court. The difference with guardianship and guardian advocacy is that with guardian advocacy, you're just doing one set of paperwork and you're going to provide the paperwork about your child's condition. So if they have autism or cerebral palsy or some other condition.
As opposed to what?
As opposed to going through the guardianship process, which is like 2 layers. You have the mental health part. They have to determine that someone is unable to make decisions for themselves. And then the full guardianship part that goes through the credit reports, the scores, the background check to make sure that you can handle someone else's affairs and that you also are able to handle your own.
That's very interesting. That is quite interesting. So they actually look at the person who is petitioning. So this person has petitioned the court to be appointed guardian, correct?
Yes.
And so the court is going to look at your credit report. That's very interesting.
And the scores. Yes, they want to see, do you manage your money?
How you manage your So they want to see how responsible you are in managing your affairs before you come asking the court so you can manage somebody else's stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay, so do they still do a background check if you're an parent?
Yes, they still do a background check because if you have a felony in your background, you probably will not be able to be the guardian. I think they go back, I want to say they go back about 10 years. So if you have a felony in the background, you will not be able to serve.
Oh my. And we're talking about, possible a parent, right? You're talking about
a parent, family member. I mean, I've seen guardianships, because remember, guardianship is not just for things like autism and stuff like that. So we're also talking things like dementia. And, if your parent cannot handle their affairs anymore, they're getting older, they're less able to manage their money and their person. So guardianship also covers that. So they want to make sure that you are good with handling your person and your property. Because if you're not, that's not going to work. They don't want you managing somebody else's money.
Now, let me just ask you, in a situation like this, in a situation such as this, what would they do? Say if you have a parent that either has a felony, right? Or Muna si tellement gain debt, he probably have several judgments, you know what I'm saying, against him or her. So you're thinking that the chances of the court appointing this person as guardian over, the adult person, that's very unlikely, right?
It's going to be problematic. So they may ask you to look to other family members. So maybe a brother or sister or aunt and uncle, parents. They'll go through the family first. The family will have opportunity to do that before they should guidance.
Okay, and so once this is done, do they hold a hearing? Is there a hearing for the judge to, I don't know, question the petitioner? Do
Right.
they question is it the person considered a ward? No?
So when we get to the guardianship part, we're going to be talking ward language. If we're in trying to determine if the person is capable, like the incapacity part, they're going to be the alleged incapacitated person. So the person that someone is petitioning to say, hey, court, this person can't handle their affairs on their own. They need someone to be appointed a guardian. And so they make that determination first before we even look at the guardianship paperwork to see if there's a suitable guardian to be appointed. So it's two pieces, the guardianship part.
Okay, that's quite interesting. Okay, so what other paperwork or documents are needed for this?
Typically, you'll need a copy of the birth certificate. If you have a child that has autism or any other special conditions, you probably want to have the IEP and maybe even some documentation of medical information, just in case there is a question about it. So
Okay.
You want to have as much paperwork about your child and their diagnosis as you can, and have that ready just in case there's a question.
Okay. IEP, ça, c'est qu'est-ce qui prépare?
So IEP, c'est l'école là qui prépare.
Okay. And d'ordinaire, dans question de IEP, ça, que l'école là, d'ordinaire préparé, est-ce que parents obligés accepter ça l'école là bail là, ou bien est-ce que vous ka questionner, est-ce que vous ka demander certains changements, parce que pour nous on a parlé de l'école, pas vrai?
Oui. So,
Go ahead.
L'école là, parents ka demander des questions, le capable demander pour yo ajouter bagay sur IEP. Si vous avez un problème avec ça fait dans IEP, vous capable poser questions pour vérifier que IEP c'est pour petit file, c'est pour ça petit la besoin.
So, IEP pour nous ka bien expliquer, ils sont un bagay que un document que l'école là lui-même il préparé pour ti moun nan, pas vrai? Après yo fin, you know, I guess faire un assessment the besoin ti moun nan, right? It's like an assessment, a needs assessment, right?
Yeah, it's like a plan for the kid, their individualized education plan.
Okay. So, qui veut dire que l'école l'a préparé avec, I guess, counselors, right? And
the teacher, the parents.
Okay. And then, kounya la même, yo voye bagay sa bay parents li-même le garder, faut make sure que ou comprenne ça que la donne, non? Pas vrai? Et puis, ou même, le que ou al rencontrer avec, professeur yo, moun sa yo, ou pas parler avec yo, ou pas dire yo, mais qui sont vle ajouter, ou comprendre, mais qui sont pas d'accord avec yo. Et puis, d'ordinaire, est-ce que yo pas dit parents que si que yo vle, yo ka vini avec un moun ou bien mon avocat, pas vrai?
Oui.
Okay. So that's important for them to know and understand, because secret plan pa travail pou petit tout. You have to be able to verbalize it. You have to, you know, for di moun yo si bagay la pa marché, ou kompren ou pa senti que ça bon pour petit tout, c'est ou même qui advocate petit tout, faut parler. Ou kompren ou pa ka parler bébé, même si ou pa parle anglais, surtout dans l'école boy ici, yo supposé bon interprète pour ça bien comprendre ça professeur yo a dit. Et ou même tout ka aller avec un monde qui ka parler plus anglais pas so, ou comprendre, et puis pour make sure que non seulement ou comprendre, ni tout pour ça expliquer by moun l'école yo, pour moun l'école que ou même qui besoin par ou et qui ça ko ta remen ouais pour petit tout. Right, Sandy?
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So, in terms of other probate issues, you know, would you recommend that parents basically qui gen timoun qui autisme, est-ce que ou gon ba dossier spécial que ou préparé pour eux même? Parce que, you know, I'm always thinking ahead in terms of you may have a child that is, you know, totally dependent. Dépend de parents, you know, from, you know, day-to-day activity, bagay kon sa. So, si que wa préparer un dossier, un bagay pour parents sa, how is he or she is going to provide for this, you know, autistic adult child, right? In the future. Qui genre que, est-ce que son bagage spécial que vous préparez ou bien c'est même genre vous avez préparé, si vous avez préparé pour un monde qui est petit, monde petit?
So, until farmer meal prepare a special needs trust, ou bien supplemental needs trust. Document ça by par droit pour préparer quelque bagage petit monde là, et en même temps, les protéger aussi ou bien pour appliquer pour Medicaid ou bien l'autre bénéfice gouvernement.
Okay. Is there anything, does that include like long-term care for the child? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So when you do a special needs trust or a supplemental needs trust, it allows you to make plans for all of the other things that we don't think about, because when you get government benefits, they're usually covering things like housing, or food or things like that, right? So you're using those monies for those day-to-day things. But you have to remember things like therapy, being able to visit family and friends, transportation, special services, special medical care, medical devices. All of those things are things that you can plan out, including maybe long-term housing or assisted living, group home. There's so many different things that you can plan out in your trust. And you can basically prepare a trust for yourself and then have some supplemental needs trust language in your documents so that if you leave anything for your kids, that language will cover whatever it is that you leave for your children.
Oh, that is quite interesting that's very interesting to know. Then I'm going to ask you, just repeat that in Creole. That was really good, Sandy, but I'm going to need you to repeat that in Creole because I really want parents, Haitian parents out there to really understand that, because we have a hard enough time trying to convince these people just to make a regular will. You understand? So imagine now, with this added situation, so they really need to know and they really need to hear it. So répétez-le pour moi encore en créole pour ça comprendre que si que yo dans situation ça côté que yo qui a autism qui extra dossier que yo a besoin.
C'est seulement will ou besoin, so you prend will mettre notre monde dans will là et puis ça besoin, mais là où il y a un petit monde qui a autisme, ou tu as besoin au special needs trust ou bien ça relève au supplemental needs trust, et document ça capable quitter bénéfice pour tout le monde là, et bénéfice ça capable aider tout le monde là, par exemple si il y a besoin de thérapie, si il y a besoin d'aide avec transportation ou bien bagage médical que tout le monde a besoin, parce que si tout le monde a recevoir bénéfice gouvernement, ou a besoin ça relève au special needs trust pour protéger comme que a recevoir dans le gouvernement. So ça veut dire bien trust là et by soin pour tout le monde là pour combien d'années tout le monde a besoin.
That is quite interesting that you would say that, because your gouvernement gon bagay que yo bay parents sa yo, pas vrai? Pour aider tout le monde là. Mais ou veut dire que si que yo pas préparé un document spécial pour protéger que comme peut-être si mon notre vie recevoir dans le futur, right? Maybe a life insurance, life insurance policy, pas vrai? So,
especially that.
So si que dossier ça yo préparé, kounya li pas affecté what is it? Aide que y a recevoir dans l'État, pas vrai?
Oui.
Okay, because le raison là qui est important parce que le fait que tout le monde ça a gagné health insurance, pas vrai? You don't want that to be affected parce que health insurance can become very expensive.
Right.
So si tout le monde ça recevoir health insurance dans l'État, li gagné l'autre bénéfice que la recevoir dans l'État ou pas vle que si que le vin gon inheritance, pas vrai on héritance demain pour ça affecter que la recevoir. That's the reason why, correct?
Yeah. And it's the
Okay.
same reason, c'est même raison, là où il y a assurance de vie, il ne doit pas mettre notre Simon là. Parce que si vous
Oui.
mettez notre Simon là, c'est Simon là qui a recevoir comme.
Oui.
So, les people qui ont trust, vous mettez
With
trust
this
là comme
trust là
bénéfice.
comme bénéfice. Okay. That's very good. That's good to know. So that's overall, that's for just everybody, right?
Right.
Okay, because I remember a case a really, really long time ago where this gentleman, you know, I guess trying to be vindictive a little bit, et puis il prend life assurance, il met sur nos petits, bien jeune, et puis il mourit. And then they had to go to probate court. Monsieur achète un glace pour un mois.
Yeah. And then they have to open a guardianship for
they
the
had
kids.
to open a guardianship for the kids and stuff like that. Monsieur achète un glace pour un mois parce que madame n'est pas juste access comme ça. They had to go to probate. Pas vrai? I still remember this case. I was like, oh my God, this is not a good idea. So, moun ki de yo a ki pense que, you know, yo ka pran life insurance et puis juste mette pour notre ti moun ki emballage. C'est un problème que lié parce que kounya la, ti moun sa, si kon mouri, assurance compagnie pas juste ka fon chèque voye bay ti moun yo. This matter has to go through court. So that's a good thing for them, for people to know.
And it's going to go through court 2 times because now you're going to do probate and guardianship.
Lord. No, you know, we have tried to tell people, you know, to make sure that, you know, documents, surtout sou gen ti moun, pa vre? Sou gen ti moun, si ke ou genye, you know, special needs, kids, dependents, ou kompren? Tout bagay sa yo, fok ke ou make sure ke ou gen papye ou an lod, ou metafor an lod, parce que si ke ou ap jere tout bagay konye a, pou piti tout qui dépend de ou même, peut-être que pour une raison ou l'autre, en condition, imagine sou pas là, right? Sou pas là qui ça ka passe ti moun ça, surtout que s'il pas, vous comprenez, s'il pas ka prendre décision pour tête pâle. You need to put some things in place to make sure that, vous comprenez, pas gen interruption? Interruptions.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
You're not helping at all.
I'm the wrong one. I'll be going to Google Translate somewhere to find you that answer.
Interruption. Yes. You are a mess. You're
Look, my Creole was learned directly from my grandmother, and that is all
I
have.
I have no excuse because I was born there, child. They're about to come here and take away my Haitian card.
Oh man, don't take her card. She's doing good. She's helping me.
Come here and take away my Haitian card. So I guess, you know, last question probably is, what can parents or caregivers do to support their autistic child?
Do your research.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more information now than there was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. There's so much information. Mm-hmm. I always direct people to organizations, Autism 509, Autism in Black. There's just so many different groups, UMCARD, UMCARD. Look up these things and find connections wherever you can. There are people now that have children who are autistic and who have gone through all of the process, and they've created organizations. I rely heavily on the young lady with Autism 509, Evelyn, because she has a child who is autistic. She's working in the community. She speaks Creole. So if you need help and you need a connection, she can find you someone. That's what these nonprofits are for. But reach out to people who can help you. Do your research. Learn as much as you can. Ask questions. I answer questions all the time. People sometimes just call me and they just want to know what's a service or a resource in my community that I can go to. And because I've been in my nephew's life since he was born, I've been an active part of his life. We've gone through a lot of services and resources and information. So ask questions.
That's good. That's very good. Because, you know, the information, the resources are out there. So it's just a matter of you doing a bit of the legwork. You know, poser questions, chercher, you know, à l'école yo, des différentes organisations, agences, agencies start out, you know, doing the work. Tell me again about the 509.
So Autism 509. That's the one that works in the Haitian community. And they work both here and in Haiti. So that's a good one.
Oh, that's good.
Autism in Black. That young lady, Maria Davis Pierre, she works with families throughout South Florida and helps you get connected to resources. She has free programs all the time. You know, check her out. She has a lot of connections of people. And just check your county. Just Google it. Disability Services, North Miami. Disability Services, Fort Lauderdale. Check out UMCARD. That is a great resource of information, and they can connect you with services in your area. And also just sometimes asking the school where your child goes to school. Ask other parents. You might know another parent that has a child who is autistic.
That's right.
But it's ask as many questions as you can to everybody that you know. Talk to your lawyers, your church. You know, a lot of services are available. It's just really need to ask.
Would you say, you know, the earlier they get started, the better, right?
Yes.
Qui veut dire que d'ordinaire si que, you know, ou ka wè que depuis d'avance ou ka wè que ti moun nan gon situation, gon, ou kompren? Un problème, plus vite que ou ka demande pour service, pour support, the better that it is for the child, correct? Ou parle de, was it first step? What's it called?
Early steps or early intervention. Yes.
Okay. Early intervention, because I think that, you know, plus bonne, parce que, you know, sometimes in our community, in the Haitian American community, we tend to ignore the signs or push it under the rug, ou bien dire son l'autre problème, vous comprenez, as opposed to getting a real diagnosis of what the issues are, pas vrai? Ou bien denial. You understand? So it could be a tough situation for a parent. They just don't want to believe, you comprends, que ti moun nan ka gon situation, but plus, you know, plus bonheur, what is it? Plus bonheur, c'est grand matin. The earlier you start, pour bay ti moun sa resources and aide que besoin, I think that is always the best, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. And comme Maître Boisrond dit, nous make sure que, you know, papier que nous besoin, parce que nous-mêmes dans la communauté haïtienne, nous toujours penser que ce soit l'âge ti moun nan yé, ou comprenez, depuis ti moun nan habite avec ou c'est ou pour prendre toute décision pour vous-même, ou pensez que ou capable ou continuer faire, but ici, depuis ti moun nan gen 18 ans, ti moun nan considéré un adulte, et ça, Maître Boisrond dit nous, c'est vrai, you guys are going to need legal documentation. Right? On a besoin de documents légaux pour nous ça continuer faire décision pour petit tout qui viennent en adulte kounya. So Sandy, I think that you have given us some great nuggets, some great information. Is there a last word? Anything else that you think that we need to share? Information that we need to put out there for parents who probably need to hear it, and so that they know what they can do.
I want to make sure that parents understand that autism is not the end. There is plenty of hope and support and resources. So don't feel like you're by yourself. There are a lot of families who have children who are autistic. And even if some are hiding it or they don't want people to know, this is the time now to really spend time understanding what autism is. It's not a disease, it's a condition.
That's right.
There's no cure because it's a condition. It requires support and therapy and treatment. So it's not the end. The
That's
children
right.
with autism have a lot of opportunities to progress and do well, but early intervention is critical.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree. Thank you so much, Sandy, for for the information, because we know that information has power. When you tell people about resources and where they can go and how to access it, and when they can see it, then they'll know, you understand, what they can do. And prendre des informations comme Maître Boisrond dit nous, make sure que nous faisons recherche par nous, pas vrai? Et, parler avec counselor dans l'école, aller dans les county ou les municipalités côté nous habiter pour nous qui genre de ressources qui gagnent pour ti moun nous. Et encore, we cannot stress this enough. Faire préparation pour ti moun sa yo, et spécialement pour les ti moun que nous gagnons qui pral vin adulte, so kounya la pour nous continuer aider ti moun sa, faut que nous make sure que papier nous en l'ordre, parce que depuis ti moun sa vin gen 18 ans, nous limiter en termes de qui ça que nous ka fait pour lui sans que nous pas gen papier guardianship ça que Maître Boisrond dit. So thank you so much, Sandy, for pour causer avec nous aujourd'hui, que vous parlez sur Kozelegal. We appreciate it. We appreciate the information. Thank you so much. Et tout le monde qui branche yo. I didn't even check to see if there were questions. I'm so sorry. Tout le monde qui branche yo, nous remercions. Encore nous dit, partagez information, partagez live yo. Et vous capable toujours joindre nous dans 305 614 0702. 305 614 0702. Et pour question, pas vrai, de ça que nous discutons ou bien ça que nous parlons sur live là, ou capable voyer li sur info@kozelegal.com, info@kozelegal.com. Encore merci. N'a ba nous rendez-vous pour l'autre semaine, si Dieu veut, pas vrai. Et avec même live là, pas vrai, peut-être on différents guests, des informations, des ressources. Again, thank you for tuning in. And encore, nous sur Facebook, nous sur Facebook, at Kozelegal, nous sur Instagram, follow us on Instagram at Kozelegal. Et à la prochaine, tout le monde passe une bonne fin de semaine. Merci.